Tonight on One News, destructive winds whip across the south, causing near misses, power outages and debris damage. Hurricane-force gusts threatening life and property. Where's cut off and what's the damage? We're live across the country with the latest. And tens of thousands turn out on a day of mega strikes. Teachers and health workers hitting the streets for better pay. Tēnā tātou katoa. Good evening. Thousands are without power tonight after destructive winds slammed into large parts of the country, downing trees, disrupting traffic and causing widespread damage to property and power lines. The full force began hitting many across the Motu late morning. Have a look out this window in Culverton, the wind just screaming past. Red weather warnings, meaning threat to life from debris, in place most of the day for Southland, the Canterbury region, Christchurch and Marlborough. And further north for Wellington and South Wairarapa, all only lifted in the past hour, with flights into Christchurch and Wellington airports disrupted too for much of the day. Witnesses One News spoke to say it's the worst wind they've ever experienced, with gusts recorded up to 225 kilometres an hour. That's hurricane force. People urged to stay home and avoid travel. We have extensive coverage for you this evening with reporters in the hardest hit centres. We begin with Lisa Davies, who's been travelling throughout North Canterbury today.
Gale force winds roaring past this window.
Here we go. Holy
as dairy farmers in North Canterbury desperately took shelter.
I'm not very confident about being in this shed either because the whole thing's moving pretty hardcore.
The region experiencing gusts of up to 180 kilometres per hour, resulting in some disconcerting sights when it finally settled.
I don't think that's meant to be there. This is hectic. It ain't going to be power for a while, guys. This is probably not the place to be right now. Oh no, the job there.
Trees bearing the brunt of the storm across the region, blocking roads, some hitting homes.
It's just split it in two.
The sound of the wind overwhelming.
Heard a big donk on the roof, a big thud.
We have experienced severe gale nor'wests over the region, with gusts reaching up to 180 kilometres per hour and in a couple of places even faster.
This truck no match for the powerful gusts through Porters Pass. There's now a big clean-up ahead.
We had 157 kilometre gusts sort of reported up by the Mount Summers Lime Works.
People have had irrigators rolled over in the wind, roofs blown off sheds, so there will be a huge amount of recovery.
A lot of farm-related buildings have been damaged.
We're just south of Culverton here, and as you can see from this line of trees, they've been shredded by the sheer power of the wind. Police have had to cut off the road north because of power lines that are down right across the road.
We've got about 5,000 customers off at the moment. We've sort of had a high of probably about 8,000, so we've got some back on. But you know, if you haven't got your power back on by 4 o'clock today, chances are it won't be back on.
In Hanmer Springs, storm force winds hampered this firefight.
We've worked really well with that community and the New Zealand Police to swiftly evacuate residents threatened by that fire. And we continue to work on our efforts to extinguish it.
Rain has been helping to contain it, but fire and emergency warn the risk posed by the wind isn't over yet.
All right, Lisa's with us now live. How busy have emergency services been, Lisa?
Well, it would be an understatement to say that today's been hectic for them, Simon. Firefighters were called out to 50 homes where the homeowners just couldn't cope themselves with the effects of those hurricane-force winds. I'm still getting my head around the shot we saw in the story, the still image of a tree trunk through the roof of a house onto the bed. It's hard to fathom exactly how many trees have been downed in North Canterbury. Because of that point we made it to on State Highway 7 could be a roadblock for some time as they clear the roads, and the Army is on standby to help with that clean-up effort. And police want the thousands of people to know that if they are without power tonight, there'll be extra patrols in those communities to make sure that they do feel safe.
And we understand there's an issue with Greymouth's water supply.
Yeah, we've just heard about this from the Mayor, Tanya Gibson. She believes that the water supply there has been struck by lightning, causing it to malfunction. It's losing water rapidly. Engineers are there assessing exactly how they can fix the situation. Until they know exactly what's happened, Greymouth people are being asked to boil their water, and an extra supply will be shipped in from Westport. So it's fair to say that on both sides of the South Island, there has been weather chaos.
Kia ora, Lisa. Thank you very much for that. Well, further south, Invercargill took a pounding, more than 100 calls to fire and emergency services in the space of an hour. In Dunedin, students dodging trees and drivers experiencing near misses. Our Otago-based reporter Jared McCulloch has more.
Drivers on State Highway 1 really had to have their wits about them today, this car narrowly avoiding a falling pine north of Dunedin. But not every driver managed to stay out of trouble.
I've just caught the one trunk and the other one's just missed me, so I've got caught in with the tree in here.
In the city itself, huge gusts were sending people rushing for cover. The biggest trees knocked over like matchsticks.
Oh my God, that's cooked.
The roof of Knox Church helpless against the howling gales.
150 years of coping with the weather until today.
Severe winds also causing mayhem near Otago Museum.
Holy
Contractors out clearing trees and reconnecting power lines. Further south, violent winds catching out motorists in Invercargill. A giant tree slamming onto the road near Tweed Reserve. The gales pounding our southernmost city, even cranes in the CBD on the move.
We're well used to wild weather down here, but this has been next level for us.
In just 1 hour, fire and emergency responding to around 140 call-outs across Southland, more than 100 of them in Invercargill alone.
Standing in my kitchen, seen one tile come over, and I said to my wife, we've just lost the tile off the roof. Walked outside, come around here and watched half my roof just literally peel away.
Met Service put much of the lower south under an orange wind warning, but coastal Southland was later upgraded to red, indicating a possible threat to life.
If we get through this without any injuries at all, then that'll be a miracle, because there's been a lot of material flying around.
Meanwhile, strong winds taking this chicken coop on a Clutha farm for a tumble. No hens hurt, the eggs not so lucky. And in our tourism mecca, debris washing up in downtown Queenstown after heavy rain, flooding also closing roads across the district. The Regional Council expecting lake levels to peak tomorrow morning. Jared McCulloch, One News.
Now, just briefly updating some of the latest road closures in the Canterbury district. State Highway 73, Springfield to Arthurs Pass Village and all the way to Kumara. Moving north, State Highway 7 from Waipara through Te Koa Range to Springs Junction and 7A to Hanmer Springs. East of that, inland, Route 70 from Waio to Peketa on the coast, and then a big section of State Highway 1 from Blenheim down to Oaro. Over to the west, State Highway 6 from Murchison to Kawateri Junction is closed. Moving to the North Island, Remutaka Hill along State Highway 2, the main route to Wairarapa is shut due to the strong winds. Also, other main routes closed down south. The blazes in Kaikoura are contained tonight, but firefighting efforts were hampered for a time today by the extreme winds. Katie Stevenson's with us now live. Katie, tell us what's the latest this evening.
Simon, crews have been hard at work today. They've been concentrating in part on the trees at risk, felling about 20 damaged by the wind and ready to fall over, or that have been burning from the inside out and are a risk, and that work is still ongoing. But at one point today, crews had to stop work altogether due to how severe the winds were, and State Highway 1 north of Kaikoura was closed for a time due to flying debris.
This came through later this morning, and that caused a bit of havoc for us because the iron from the roofs that had been lying around in the paddocks were then becoming missiles themselves, so we had to close operations while the wind until the winds abated.
Tell us about how difficult the conditions were for the firefighters.
Yes, well, like Des said there, it's certainly been challenging at times. Fire and Emergency says that they did deal with some small flare-ups when that wind came through, and some structures were again under threat, but they managed to protect them. They also said today, within an hour, the temperature went from 17 to 30 degrees. And although the wind has died down slightly tonight, people are being asked to remain vigilant.
Tēnā koe, Katie, thank you. Well, the weather causing widespread disruption in the capital as well, with damage to buildings, power lines and trees. Transport was severely disrupted, with many heeding the advice to stay home. Abby Wakefield reports.
From 6 a.m, Wellington's swells and skies were moody. Then, just hours later, came the outburst.
The wind's starting to really pick up here in Wellington, where Met Services issued a red strong wind warning until 7 p.m. We're in front of Wellington Airport, where wind gusts of up to 140 kilometres are expected in exposed places. There's been many flight cancellations already today.
Thousands of homes in the lower North Island experiencing power outages. Fire and Emergency responding to more than 100 call-outs in Wellington, including this home in Newlands.
It hurts, to be fair, but we're mindful that the house is still there and the family's safe, and that's really what counts most.
In the CBD, this loose fixings caused safety concerns.
We had the fatal tree fall in Mount Vic the other day as well, so we're just asking people just to stay away from high-rise buildings like this where there's people with things coming off the buildings.
The weather too exciting for some who wanted to capture the moment. Emergency services kept busy with trees falling on homes and blocking roads, plus damage to power lines as well.
Real windy. I was just in a warehouse and it sounded like the roof was going to fall off.
St Teresa's School in Featherston closed today after partial roof and property damage. Strong gusts also shutting the Rumataka Hill. On the Kapiti coast at the Paraparaumu Beach Golf Club, this wall was ripped apart from the wind too. A day of disruption set to ease later tonight. Abby Wakefield, One News.
And as Abby said, the wild weather causing serious disruption at Wellington Airport. Sophie Trigger joins us from there now. Did any flights actually take off today, Sophie?
Good evening. Well, a few flights did manage to get away this morning, but after 9 a.m, almost all were cancelled for much of the day. Now in Wellington, with the winds easing, we are starting to see a few more flights pop up on the arrival and departure boards behind me. But it has been a day of significant disruption for passengers around the country, with Air New Zealand cancelling 181 flights, affecting 15,000 customers. We also spoke with Wellington Airport's head of operations earlier today, and he said the scenes of deserted airport lounges was quite surreal and even reminded him a little of COVID times.
I guess it's the calm before the storm, so we've got everyone getting ready, because once it all comes back online, it's all hands to deck, and obviously it becomes a busy place once again.
And it's not just the airport facing issues, Sophie. Tell us what was happening in the city.
Well, a call was made last night to cancel commuter train services in Wellington and Wairarapa. Kiwi Rail still needs to inspect those lines, but those services are expected to be up and running again tomorrow. Now, bus services in the capital, meanwhile, were running today, but the streets were very deserted in the capital, with many members of the public heeding the warnings to stay home. Wellington City Council also closed its public facilities today, and one cafe also told us that it only served a third of its usual coffee orders. So certainly a very quiet day in the central city, Simon.
Kia ora, Sophie. Thank you for that. The Health Minister wants an independent review into a generator failure at Nelson Hospital. The top half of the South Island dodged the worst of the weather, but the hospital suffered a power outage and its backup source didn't automatically kick in. Health New Zealand says there was never a safety issue. Here's our Nelson-based reporter, Jessica Roden.
From North Canterbury to the West Coast in Marlborough, this is how the day started. Power out for around 90,000 households, high winds down country likely to blame.
Well, we have 3 transmission circuits that feed that area. They're very reliable assets, so it is a very rare event.
These workers directing traffic, the strikes helping to avoid commuter chaos, but it wasn't such good news at Nelson Hospital.
And what would normally happen for our hospitals is that our generators would automatically cut across and cut in. This morning, and we're not quite sure exactly why, but that did not happen automatically.
Backup batteries necessary to power parts of the hospital for an hour before the generators came on.
Battery power is for our most critical areas, so for example, theatres and our intensive care unit.
Workers who were meant to be on strike instead called in.
They asked us for more staff and we immediately agreed to that. Obviously, our first priority is the safety of the community and the safety of our people working in the hospital.
The likes of patient charts and some monitoring equipment rely on power.
Hearing from colleagues and knowing what it is like in the ED, we are really reliant on our electricity, and it's really disappointing that our generators didn't kick in.
The Minister agrees.
Obviously what happened today was concerning, incredibly concerning, and I've asked for an independent investigation to give greater assurance that those systems are there to ensure that we have that protection for patients.
The investigation looking at the issue nationwide.
This government's austerity is coming through not only to our people, but to the equipment and the facilities that they're using.
For decades, Nelson Hospital has been in line for a rebuild. $500 million was finally set aside in this year's budget, though it won't be ready until 2029. Health New Zealand emphasising it does plan for the worst.
I realise it might have been an uncertain time for people. I can absolutely assure them that there was at no point did we have any safety issues.
While power was restored late morning to the top of the South Island, some big questions now have to be answered. Jessica Roden, One News.
Well, the strong winds also hampered fire and emergency crews working on blazes in central Hawke's Bay. Helicopters managed to help dampen hotspots this morning in Porangaho, but were grounded again as winds intensified. And with more wind and warm temperatures forecast, Fire and Emergency have issued a total fire and fireworks ban for the region. And just an update, Remutaka Hill, we understand, has just reopened, and Breakfast will have the very latest on the impact of the storm, speaking with Air New Zealand about those flight delays too. That's Breakfast here on One from 6 a.m. All right, for the very latest on the weather system, let's bring in the experts. So is the worst over, Dan?
Yes, the worst is over, but there is some damaging gusts just for the next few hours. Take a look at what we've been seeing, that pink area there, and compared to where we are now, all the red risk to life warnings have been passed. They've been let go. Now we're looking at orange, and those are further north. Tararua district up towards parts of Hawke's Bay, 100 to 120. And at the peak of this thing, we were looking at Wellington, for instance. Those how we look as far as winds now. Wellington Airport got to 125. The Wellington Hills, that was at lunchtime, 150. Now that is tracking away. And it's really the Tararua district up towards parts of Hawke's Bay. Still, for the next few hours, that'll push away. Notice how the winds do open up. So it quietens down. That will be the trend. All things quietening down slowly through the course of the night into tomorrow. And then you start to think, what about long weekend and the weather-wise? We'll, of course, have all the details on that coming up a little bit later on.
Looking forward to it. Kia ora, Dan. E whaiakene coming up. A bus driver is killed in Auckland. What caused the electric vehicle to burst into flames, forcing lengthy road closures, impacting the morning commute? And a final goodbye to Jim Bolger, with family, mates and politicians sharing moving tributes to the former Prime Minister. No mai hoki mai. Teachers, nurses, doctors and other public workers walked off the job today due to their impasse with the government over better pay. It's estimated around 100,000 took part in the strike. While the wild weather forced rallies in Wellington and much of the South Island to be cancelled, thousands still hit the streets in other parts of the country. Ed O'Driscoll reports.
Marching side by side in a coordinated mega strike, leaving classrooms.
We're here for our tamariki that we work with.
And hospitals.
We love patients! We love patients!
The biggest walkout of public service workers in 40 years.
First
first protest for nurses was in 1985, and that was the badge.
An estimated 20,000 people filling Auckland's Queen Street, of all ages,
Let's just for success!
all voices.
Teachers are grinding like every day. Do this, do that, do this too. For how many dollars? Not even a few.
With similar demands.
It starts with this: more pay and more staff.
The government yesterday issued a last-minute plea for the strikes to be called off, calling them unproductive and unnecessary. But those marching here today clearly disagree. As well as Auckland, rallies were held across the North Island, from Whangarei to Tauranga, Gisborne and Napier. The planned march on Parliament and many events in the south cancelled due to wild weather. The sound of bagpipes, the battle cry for Dunedin workers who moved indoors. The crowd fiery and frustrated.
The government keeps saying that we need to be coming to the table. Well, we can't go to the table until we're asked to go to the table.
The head of the public service, Sir Brian Roche, and government ministers have condemned the strike action.
My message to the union is stop playing politics with patients and actually let's resolve these issues. That's what we need to be doing.
We have given them good offers. They've chosen not to take those offers to their members, or they've chosen to take without prejudice offers to their members when they shouldn't have.
But both sides are digging in. And there's no sign yet of anyone backing down. Ed O'Driscoll, One News.
Former Prime Minister Jim Bolger was laid to rest today, with family, friends and colleagues paying their respects to a man they called one of the great New Zealanders of his time. He was aged 90. Remembered for leading the country's first treaty of Waitangi settlements and tough economic reforms in the 1990s. Political editor Mikey Sherman was at the funeral and filed this report.
Here at his parish church, New Zealand's 35th Prime Minister was bid farewell.
New Zealand has lost a good man who led us with vision.
And I'm going to miss that occasional phone call, you'd pick it up and Bolger here.
The son of Irish immigrants, Bolger was born after the Great Depression and before World War II. Leaving school at 14, he was a farmer before entering politics.
And those characteristics prevailed with him for the rest of his life. It was down to earth, it was instinctive, you knew what to do, you knew what was the right thing to do.
His legacy was both courageous and controversial, his government introducing the severe mother of all budgets and leading the country's first treaty settlement with Tainui alongside the late Māori Queen.
At a time when trust was fragile, hope uncertain, their personal relationship became a beacon.
Today, Queen Ngāwai Honoitepo came to honour the man who helped make history.
He dared to imagine an Aotearoa that could finally face its own reflection.
Throughout his career, his wife Joan was by his side, the pair raising 9 children.
Joan, may I say to you, the loss of Jim must feel immeasurable. The government extends to you and the family our deepest sympathy.
One day last week, Mum had just got home after spending 12 hours at the hospital with Dad. Her phone rang. It was Dad, asking if she wanted to go back in because he missed her. It was a phenomenal partnership to the very end.
He certainly did know a lot of people, and he'd be touched to see you all here today.
A devout Catholic honoured with holy water and incense.
Oh, Daddy boy, I love you so.
Jim Bolger made his final journey, leaving behind a legacy to be proud of. Inspiring a new generation of Aotearoa New Zealand through a life of service. Mikey Sherman, One News.
The driver of an electric bus has been killed after a head-on crash with a car on Auckland's Tamaki Drive. Emergency services called to the incident just after 9 last night, with the bus bursting into flames. The bus company says investigations confirm the fire originated from the car involved, with the bus's batteries undamaged and not a factor in the blaze. Roads were closed overnight, causing major delays during rush hour this morning. An investigation is underway into how the crash happened. In Ukraine, at least 7 people have been killed during a wave of Russian strikes. In one of 400 drone attacks over 24 hours, A mother, her 12-year-old daughter and 6-month-old baby were killed in Kyiv. There was another direct hit on a kindergarten in Kharkiv. The children survived, but an adult was killed. The bombardment coming after the Kremlin rejected a ceasefire across the current front line, and the planned summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Budapest was called off. Coming up, sacre bleu, the embarrassing security flaw at the Louvre, which meant the thieves weren't spotted while swiping the crown jewels. And the big part Bruce Springsteen played, turning actor Jeremy Allen White into the boss for his new biopic.
And in weather, we head into Friday, some much quieter weather is heading our way. We still have the leftovers of that front, that'll be across the far north. So with that, still maybe some gusty winds, that air of rain clears away. A fine looking day overall, some sun, some cloud, winds will ease for a lot of us. Could be a few showers though into the far south and west. And the long weekend, what's going to happen? All the details coming up after sport.
Hoki mai anō, welcome back. The Louvre in Paris has reopened as the hunt continues for thieves who stole crown jewels worth millions of dollars. They used a ladder to break in through a window. The director of the museum admitting it was a security failure, revealing a surveillance camera was pointing the wrong way. The BBC's Hugh Schofield reports.
The most visited museum in the world is being visited again. In theory, it's business as usual, but of course it isn't. A section around the Apollo Gallery remains closed, and post-heist, the atmosphere is different.
It's very sad. We've waited a lifetime to come see the jewels. Yeah. And we've planned this trip for a long time to see the jewels. And they're not here.
Some of my friends back in America, when I sent them pictures of me coming to Paris, they sent me a message and said, hey, were you the one that stole the jewels from the Louvre? And I thought they were just kidding. And then today when we came here and I talked to you and you mentioned that someone actually did steal the crown jewels, I couldn't believe it.
No news about who carried out the theft, but more questions this afternoon about the how. The president of the museum was asked by the Senate Culture Committee about failings in security. She said the systems in place had worked correctly. Alarms went off, police were on their way. But there was one weak point, she conceded, the lack of cameras on the street.
There are a few external cameras, but they are aging. What we have is totally inadequate, and unfortunately, outside the Apollo Gallery, the only camera was pointing towards the west, and therefore did not cover the balcony.
President Macron said today that planned security upgrades at the Louvre will now be accelerated. Small comfort when a priceless part of France's cultural history has now gone.
And in a 2-hour grilling, the president of the museum told lawmakers its perimeter CCTV is ageing, blaming chronic underinvestment. In a new biopic, rock legend Bruce Springsteen has opened up on his mental health struggles in his early musical life. The actor who becomes the boss on screen, Jeremy Allen White, reveals he was nervous about accepting the role given he can't sing or play the guitar. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
This is often what comes to mind when you think of the boss. But the powerful new movie, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is peeling back the curtain on a critical but little-known chapter of the rock titan's amazing career, the making of the album Nebraska, and the depression and mental health struggles that accompanied it.
Well, music was the first way that I really medicated my anxieties and my depression, you know.
One of the things that comes through in the film is that you hit that point where you realize it's not enough. You can't heal yourself only through the music.
I really knew a lot what to do with those 3 hours on stage. It was the other 21 that were killing me. You know?
Jeremy Allen White, known for his roles in Shameless and The Bear, now embodying the boss. But he faced an immediate challenge. He doesn't sing or play the guitar.
When I spoke to JD, my guitar teacher,
I said, hey, I'm really excited to learn how to play the guitar. And he said, you're not going to learn how to play the guitar. You're going to learn how to play these Bruce songs. I only know the chords necessary for really the album of Nebraska, which is only 4 or 5 chords. And then in singing, it was like, all I want to do is sound like Bruce.
Springsteen himself, a sounding board throughout filming.
I had his support the whole time, and that was very, very important. I couldn't have done it without his guidance.
What kind of pressure did you feel to do him justice?
I had some trepidation going into it because I just know how beloved he is. I recorded the majority of the album Nebraska, and Bruce listened. And he called me and he said, you know, you sound a lot like me. You don't sound just like me. You're making the song your own.
And the Springsteen biopic, Deliver Me From Nowhere, has opened in cinemas today. All right, Andrew's here with sport now. More change for the All Blacks.
Seems to be a constant in this team. An assistant coach, another one going. Jason Holland is with us next to explain the surprise move. As players only found out about Holland today, they gear up for the Grand Slam tour with a variety of goals. Plus, the Silver Ferns are left searching for answers again. The 2 Kiwi A-League teams gear up for the start of their home seasons in very different conditions. And back on the slopes, Alice Robinson start to bid for Olympic glory. Nā mai ki ngā kōrero, hakinikina o te wā. Welcome to Sport, and tonight on the eve of departing for a Grand Slam tour, more change at the top of the All Blacks. Now, this photo taken in June last year shows Scott Robertson's original coaching team. Leon McDonald left last year in August after just 3 tests. Now, another assistant coach will depart after the upcoming tour. 2 years with the Test team is enough for Jason Holland.
My gut feel has told me that the best thing for me is to move on.
Holland came to the All Blacks after 5 seasons as Hurricanes head coach. He'd also worked with Scott Robertson in the NPC and national under-20s.
A couple of weeks ago when we were in the middle of the Bledisloe, we had a chat around it.
There's nothing around the performance side of it. It's just a decision and it's been made and we'll get on with it.
Pressure-wise, I didn't think it was any more than what I had with the Canes, but mate, it's a unique environment, the international rugby environment, isn't it?
It's unclear if another coach will come in next year with an attacking portfolio. The All Blacks players this morning were unaware of the coaching departure, focusing on assembling, then departing for Chicago tomorrow, coming after time off following the Rugby Championship.
I'm not going to lie, I needed that 2 and a bit weeks off. It can add up, so just at home in Fiji, really refreshing.
Savi has played the last 26 All Black tests in a row, the only forward to start every match this year, all on the back of an intense Super Rugby season with Moana.
Right now I just want to play the game that I love, put smiles on people's faces and make sure the next crop are set up well.
Yes, the two are vital for a number of newer players.
There's a lot of guys pushing for spots, and especially in the centre jersey.
Midfielder Quinn Tupaia, a standout in the team's last outing in Perth, his first start at centre.
I found out when the team got named, no heads up, so had to sort of change my mindset going into training and get over that 13 role a little bit more.
Confident you could do it though?
Yeah, big time, yeah. Always confident, yeah.
That confidence definitely needed on a challenging Grand Slam tour as this All Blacks outfit goes through more change. Canterbury won the NPC title in their first season at their current stadium. Now they're aiming to win it again in their last match there. The Red and Blacks take on Otago on Saturday afternoon at Apollo Project Stadium, where they won the title in 2012.
Probably is a testament to our fans. We know that it's not the best stadium to watch footy at. We know that the wind rips through, it's often pretty cold, but yet they still show up, and they show up for us. So I think the new stadium and looking ahead is not only a reward to the team, but also a reward to the fans for staying loyal.
They'll move into the new indoor Te Kaha Stadium next season. Canterbury looking for their first NPC title since 2017, and to make up for losing the Ranfurly Shield to Otago just last month. Well, after losing their coach and a national selector, the Silver Ferns are now one defeat away from losing the Constellation Cup. Beaten 68-51 by Australia in Sydney, they at least play the last 2 games of the series at home. Luke Robinson reports.
A dejected Silver Ferns outclassed once again.
Another
second half demolition.
Their Constellation Cup defence now in tatters, thrashed by 17 goals. Australia clinical from the outset, scoring 19 goals in the opening quarter, their most in a match since 2012.
We're disappointed and we know we can be better than that, and we have moments where we're in touch, and when we're not in touch, we're really not in touch at all.
The Ferns making a run in the second quarter, even as the Diamonds did their best to disrupt star shooter Grace Wicker.
She doesn't look happy, does she, Wiki?
Sometimes I do feel we put a little bit too much pressure on her, and we need to actually take care of her a little bit more. So just trying to find that balance.
Wicker fighting to find hers at times.
She pulls quite heavily.
But New Zealand cutting the lead to just 2 at half-time. Any chance of a second half comeback quickly quashed. 5 intercepts in the third quarter, helping Australia to a 14-point advantage.
Their ball movement was sharp, and that pace is huge. In the end, we were chasing rather than dictating, and that's a really tough space to be in.
The Diamonds shining, the Ferns folding. One poor quarter, punished.
There's a lot of emotions going on in the background that we have to deal with, and that we didn't necessarily expect to be in at the moment, but it is what it is.
Little bit of dejection on the face. They'll be relieved to get home.
Back home, where the noise is even louder off the court than on it. Luke Robinson, One News.
Prudence Fowler's got the New Zealand team off to a good start on the opening day of the track cycling world champs in Chile, with bronze in the women's scratch race. The 22-year-old Fowler riding a smart race in her first World Championships to be near the front for the all-important sprint.
Serena Vibes defends her title from last year. She is Prudence Fowler for New Zealand. Bronze medal for her, so great ride for the young Kiwi.
The men's team Pursuit will ride off for bronze tomorrow against the United States. Well, New Zealand's 2 A-League football teams had contrasting fortunes playing at home last season, both now trying to move on the eve of their first home matches in their new campaigns. Here's Zion Dale.
The Wellington weather might have been causing havoc today. A number of flights, trains and buses cancelled. Wellington Phoenix training, however, still on.
So I went and bought like a couple $1 million worth in windmill stocks after today. It was like, I've never experienced anything like that.
The weather forecast to improve for Sunday's first home game of the season against Brisbane.
Across the 6-yard area, and it is an own goal off Matt Sheridan.
But Wellington Stadium didn't feel very homely last season, just 2 wins in the capital.
And I've already addressed it a million times, and last year. I won't entertain any more questions on it.
The question now, whether this team's capable of turning things around, an improved showing in their season opener.
Draws them back level from 2-0 down.
A 2-2 draw against the Perth Glory.
Since I've been head coach, we've had the 2 best starts Phoenix have ever had. It doesn't really mean that much. I think what matters is where we are in the middle part of the season towards the end.
Further north, where the weather's bearable, football fever's starting to catch on.
The word around town is obviously, we're back and playing.
The Black Knights take on the Western Sydney Wanderers at Mount Smart, where they lost only 2 games last season on their way to the Premier's plate.
We're blessed really to have the support that we've got, the best in the A-League at the moment, and I think it's going to be bigger this season. I think the port's going to grow, the membership's already growing.
But the slate's been wiped clean, opening their season with a goalless draw against the Melbourne Victory.
I know we had a great season last year, but we have to sort of put that aside and we just go again, really.
The boys in blue ready to bring scenes like this back to the A-League. Zion Dale, One News.
Alice Robinson's quest for a medal at February's Winter Olympics gathers pace this weekend with the opening round of the World Cup circuit in Austria. The Queenstown skier buoyed by a breakthrough season in the last northern winter. Broden Nucky has more.
Launching into another ski season, Alice Robinson already flying.
I feel like I've been in a really good space mentally too, and starting to kind of figure out my, what makes things work for me.
The 23-year-old resurgent in the last 12 months. 7 World Cup podiums in the giant slalom, including her first win in 4 years in January, as well as a silver medal 1 month later at the World Championships.
I thrive when I'm happy and when I'm enjoying myself and having a good time and not taking everything so seriously.
Those triumphs highlighted in a documentary Red Bull is releasing next week.
It's amazing to watch it back and see all the different kind of stages play out in front of my eyes and in a different format than what's in my memory, and seeing it on TV is it's really amazing, and it's very special that's something I'm going to have forever now.
Capturing her origins, the highs and the lows, including a disappointing Beijing Winter Olympics.
And frustration for the New Zealander.
Finishing 22nd in her favoured giant slalom, Robinson famously saying leading into her next event, the Super G, she'd either find herself on the podium or in the fence. That belief materialising in the worst possible way.
It's just 0.21 off the pace. Oh, and she's clipped the gate a little too tight.
Yeah, I guess it was quite a dramatic statement to make. But I think it's because I was so upset about the result from the giant slalom that I just wanted to give the Super G everything that I had.
Now named to compete at her third Winter Olympics in February with her Kiwi support network re-established and the prospect of plenty of racing beforehand.
From the last week of November through to the end of March, we've got a competition every week. So we're straight back into the circus, we call it. So.
Time for Robinson to roll up and put on a show. Broder Nucky, One News.
Those games will roll around soon. Cricket coming up, don't forget, in about 8 or 9 minutes here on One. That's if the weather behaves at Eden Park.
Looking forward to some improvement, both senses. Thank you very much there, Sev. Coming up, Dan says the weather is set to improve tomorrow. But the big question, of course, how's the long weekend shaping up? Here's the details next.
Hello, we can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel with some much quieter weather coming in on our way over the next several days. But of course, the intense weather all down to the extremes. Extreme warmth into the upper atmosphere to our north. And the cold air, still little lumps of it working through. And that, of course, brought the strong jet stream brought the intense low there, some 950 hectopascals, as it barreled across the country, bringing us that big zone of the damaging winds. Next couple of days, that goes away. The cold air in the upper trough stays to our south. Showers up the west coast Saturday, but it is not bad. Sunday, a bit more gathers. Monday might be the day you go, indoor plans. That could be the change. And I mention that cold because we keep more or less an upper trough of colder air to the south. Some of us may have to contend with a snow level over the weekend too, depending on where you are. Today, nothing like that across some spots. Hastings, Kaikoura, 32. Kaikoura, 31.8. Well up there, of course, because of that flow. Whenever we get the temperatures that high, the atmosphere is just saying, here we go. Look at the temperatures elsewhere from Dunedin, 25. Christchurch, 28. Of course, the red warnings, they have at least expired. Only orange ones, Tararua district, all the way north to parts of Hawke's Bay as a watch. Wind gusts still likely in the next few hours, 100 to 120. Some road snows. Milford, that'll run for the next couple of days. Also Lindis and also Crown. You can see our snow level there, 1,000 the blue, 500 there. That system goes away. A much quieter looking day. We lose the breeze. See a few showers come into the west, particularly later on with that system just working in through the end of the day. So much of north and rain has gone overnight. That, of course, comes in overnight. You haven't seen it yet. Same sort of thing for Auckland. Rain probably comes in after the cricket. You may just see the cloud thickening. Odd spot, worst case, but I think it's after midnight. 20 degrees, fine-looking day tomorrow. And the wind's easing back as well. Hamilton, same for you. All of the overnight stuff is gone. You're looking at a fine day. Light winds, very pleasant as well. And the same sort of thing going down to the Bay of Plenty and the Central Plateau. Looking good here, 21 to even 22. Tamaranui seeing a little bit more cloud just lap in for the afternoon. Tauranga, 22 for you. You've got a fine-looking day. The overnight cloud and rain does clear away. Fairly pleasant as winds do drop light. It takes a bit longer, of course, further east. Still got some strong winds here for the next few hours. This does ease slowly through the night into the early hours, in fact, for that last watch to parts of Hawke's Bay. That will ease. So you'll have the early cloud. That will clear through, but eventually getting a decent-looking day. Notice temperatures still mild. There's no cold southerly to clean things out. That's why we're seeing lots of westerlies, of course, and that'll be something that will affect our weather in the coming days. Some cloud laps into parts of Taranaki, the lower North Island too. And you still might even see the hints of a northerly, if you can believe it. There's no southerly to clean things out. 17 degrees, but much quieter things for you. Te Waipunama, Nelson, you'll see some cloud. Westport, there is a couple of showers. They'll work in here through the course of the day. 14 degrees. You could see perhaps a fine-looking day for Christchurch. 19 degrees, and everyone else looking good. Gusty westerly at times here, and you'll notice that too. That's with the next trough rolling in, so the west coast picks up some showers. Timaru, a gusty wind. Twizel, it's a chilly one. Look at that, right at freezing. I mentioned the road snows, 3 down south. Queenstown going over the likes of the passes bear that in mind. 13 degrees, some late showers. It is a chilly start there, bear in mind. So that cold air, but it's poised to the south and blustery to the deep south with some showers coming in, particularly for the end of the day with that front, and maybe even a late day shower at Dunedin, and 17 gusty wind as well. Right, Saturday. This is not a bad day. I know you see a trough there. Come on. It's like, this is quieter because things will start to change. I do mention Sunday because after that trough goes through, remember I said there's a big engine room, an upper trough to the south and west of the country. So the snow line there, just watch in the deep south perhaps on Sunday for the snow level. It could flirt and maybe just affect areas. So it'll be much, much colder there. Eastern area is always doing fine. We go into Monday, and I mentioned that's where we could be seeing some of that wetter weather come through. So the weekend might be pretty good, and then it starts to change. But, you know, we've got the worst of it out of the way, maybe some quieter weather for a change for a couple of days. But the hydro lakes have at least done well with a bit of a top up there.
All right. We'll keep fingers crossed on the other front. Thanks very much for that, Dan. And that is One News this Thursday. No 7 sharp tonight, of course. The T20 cricket's up next. And a reminder, for more on today's top stories, you can always head to our news page on TVNZ Plus or our website, onenews.co.nz. From the entire One News team, good night.